Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 50 of the Run in the Paint podcast. I'm Miles. I'm here with Jackson and Joey in person. Guys, how are you doing today?
Here for the start of the finals. We watched the first game at my parents' house, and I was hoping to say it was a wonderful game, but it was pretty much a blowout for most of it. But I'm excited to be here for an in-person pod with both of you.
I was quite bored.
For good reason. It was a blowout for the most part. But before we get started, shout out to Coach Cove, unable to be with us here today. He'll be back for game 2. Had a busy day today, going all over the place. So
Do I get a shout out when I miss?
Well, what do you do when you miss episodes?
I was sick the last time.
Me. But let's get into game 1 of the 2024 NBA Finals. The Celtics cruise their way to a 107-89 victory over the Dallas Mavericks.
I was wrong.
A game where really Boston won this game really in the first quarter. Had a crazy 23-5 run to end the first quarter. They were up by 17 points. And the Mavericks, they then went down by 29 in the first half. Then they came back, got it to 8-9 points. But then the Celtics, they just breezed their way to the victory there. It was really an all-around performance from all their guys. Joey, we'll start with you. What was your big takeaway really from game 1 for either side, whether it was a player?
Yeah. I have the Mavericks winning the series in 7. But I did pick Boston to win it. I just didn't expect it to be like a blowout like this. Like you said, it was over like the first quarter. At one point in the second quarter, it was 58-29. Like they literally doubled the Mavericks score in the second quarter. Like at that point, it was over. It was very impressive from especially Luka Doncic. Even though it was his debut and they got blown out, he had a fantastic game. He was the only one on Dallas who was actually had it going, and that's the reason they got it back to 8 points in the third quarter. However, that was all for naught. KP came back in the game in the third quarter, and Celtics just continued like they did in the first.
Yeah, absolutely, Jackson. I think Kristaps Porzingis is a guy that we do have to talk about here because he came out first game in over a month, and he looked incredible in the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, he looked like he was kind of just flying around the court doing everything, whether it was scoring, whether it was blocking, playing great defense nonetheless. And yeah, got to give him a lot of credit. I think he played an amazing game.
We all thought he was going to be super rusty. Like we had your dad here. Shout out to Uncle Phil.
Yeah.
And we all thought he was going to be super rusty. He came out in the first quarter off the bench, lights out. Hey, shout out to Goglin. Nice job on calling it, saying Porzingis was going to start off on the bench.
Well,
yeah, Porzingis came off the bench in this game.
It was definitely a smarter thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
And that'll pose an interesting question for going to game 2, which we'll go to later, whether or not they should continue to bring him off the bench since he played so well in that role.
I think they will for one more game.
You think so?
Just for one more game, I think.
I would agree with for at least one more game, just even though he didn't have a minutes restriction and he played absolutely fantastic. In my opinion, he was the big difference maker today, even though you could point it to any guys. Everyone was just hitting. Like even Tatum only had like 15 points or something like that, and they dominated. But he was still efficient. Like it wasn't like he was just chucking up shots and just didn't have it going. But KP was really the difference maker. But Al Horford played decent starting. He was playing defense, grabbing boards, hitting shots. Like, you're okay having him starting, even just playing 10 to 15 minutes a game.
Yeah, I mean, to start the game, the Celtics were on fire. I mean, they were shooting up a lot of threes, as they always do. They were hitting them, and it was from all over the place by a lot of players. And the Mavericks didn't start this game that bad either. It was pretty even the first 6 minutes of the game until Porzingis comes in. And in just 20 minutes of action, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 3 blocks, just incredible. Like you can make the case, like, of course, this is a former all-star player, tremendous player. That first quarter coming off the bench might have been the best quarter of his career. Probably. Just on both ends. He was spectacular. The blocks he had, as well as Jaylen Brown later in the game.
Imagine if the Knicks had him.
They did, yeah.
Imagine it for Tingus Pingus on the Knicks right now. They would be in the finals right now.
He'd probably still be injured. I mean, we're talking enough the Celtics. We got to talk about how bad the Mavericks were on offense because they only had 8 assists as a team.
Can we talk about that
Yes.
one specific player? How all of us were like really hoping was going to get it going eventually.
Kyrie.
Yeah, he
Kyrie
was
Irving.
brutal today.
Kyrie wasn't good, and I think Miles, were you right? Oh no, PJ had 14, so you weren't right about the combining for less than 20.
Yes.
But it was close.
Yeah, they didn't really play that well. Like PJ had a decent game. It was because he was
just couldn't hit a
attacking
jump
inside.
shot.
The 3-point shot was not going down. Like when you look at their numbers, they went 7 for 27 from deep, 26%, and 4 of the 7 makes came from Luka. So the rest of the team made 3 of 15 from downtown. You
I
add
don't
that
think
with
Kyrie made a jump shot.
yeah. You add that, they missed 7 free throws in this
Yeah,
game and
yeah.
turned the ball over 11 times. That's just not a good, recipe for success. And a number I noted here that we kept talking about was the assists that they finished with. They ended up finishing with 9 assists, which is the lowest in a finals game since the 2007 Cavs, which is incredible. Lowest amount of assists in a game in 14 years. And Luka, a guy who consistently averages 8-9 assists per game, has 1 assist, his first game with 1 assist in over 3 years. So I think if you're the Boston Celtics, you kind of played this to perfection. You really made Luka do all the damage by himself in isolation, and no one else really got it going.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I don't know what. Like, I think another one of those threes or 2 of those threes was Jane Hardy and like the garbage.
Oh
time.
yeah, and garbage
so
minutes. Yeah.
I don't even know how many necessarily they're like threes they hit in non-garbage time. It's Luka's 4 plus like 1, maybe 2.
Yeah.
we could talk about Luka. We were all pointing it out. Like Luka was hitting these crazy step back threes, and like those are all his threes. He had at least 2 or 3 wide open threes that he just bricked. Like he can't make wide open threes. We have realized
Catch and shoot threes. Yeah, catch and shoot threes are not his thing. He has to do it off the dribble.
But I think another thing I noticed, at least with Luka, is he was passing sometimes too much.
Yeah.
He was passing up open shots, or at least open for him because he's Luka, to get his teammates involved, which is smart because I think his teammates might be better acclimated for the other games. But also, who knows? Maybe his teammates won't. I mean, he doesn't exactly have the strongest team around him.
He's definitely going to need more help than he got tonight.
He needs Kyrie at least to step up.
Yeah, we were hoping that Kyrie was going to get it going because he is Mr. Fourth Quarter, but he just was missing layups, missing shots. He was dribbling off his foot. He was falling down when trying to cross people over.
Just things that you're not used to seeing happen with Kyrie Irving, who's arguably the greatest ball handler in the history of the sport.
And it's hard to get going in the fourth when your team is down so much already because you're not playing well in the fourth. So you're just taken out of the game.
Yeah, it's kind of at that point. Try to get your other guys going. Try to, have them see some shots go down.
Like Jaden Hardy.
Yeah, and I was saying Jaden Hardy, he was lighting it up in garbage minutes, and it is only garbage minutes. But we've seen in the course of different playoff series and in history where, in late in a blowout, guys are able to get going by hitting a shot, and that can help them later on in series. So the Mavericks will be banking on that for Jaden Hardy because they're going to need a lot of help in other areas. We know Derek Lively really struggled, had 5 fouls in just 18 minutes of action.
He looked so – Derek Lively was one of those guys for Mavericks that, like, coming off of a fantastic Western Conference Finals where he didn't miss, like, a shot for, like, a bunch of games or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's just tough because, like, I was just thinking of rookies who have kind of played well in, like, the finals, and I thought of Christian Brown immediately, and I feel like I can't really think of many other rookies that have played well in the finals. So, I mean, you got to remember, he still is a rookie.
Yeah.
Even though he was a fantastic rookie up until now, like, he's still a rookie.
That was one of the things I think we all talked about in the previous episodes and previewing it is where the advantage for Dallas is the backcourt. The front court is what Boston has to take to them, especially with KP coming back. And Derek Lively was a non-factor. 5 fouls going in like halfway through the third quarter. Like they had to take him out. They were relying on Maxi Kleba. Like they just dominated that front court and dominated the inside. They're including the blocks too.
Yeah.
Was insane.
It was incredible. I mean, the Mavericks had 1 block compared to 9 for the Celtics. And the Celtics had as many blocks as the Mavericks had assists. It's absurd.
Yeah.
Here, go ahead, Jackson.
That's what I was gonna say.
It's just ridiculous.
I mean, it's crazy. And yeah, I think you could just tell that the Celtics are just the better team.
Yeah.
But I think I'm not going to change my finals prediction because I still think they have the coaching advantage with Jason Kidd because his kind of coming out of halftime speech was talking about how they needed to take the third quarter, which they almost did.
They did. They played very well. They cut the 29-point lead down to 9 points. And it was just that end of the third quarter that really killed them.
Yeah, and I still think Jason Kidd's the better coach. I think you still have Luka. Kyrie has to step up at some point. I hope he does, but I mean, and I think you're not going to get bad play from your two bigs again. Maybe one of them, but not both in the same game, I don't think.
I'm probably definitely leaning with you as well. I'm going to stick with my Mavericks pick in 7. I think the Mavericks actually will come back next week if I'll just kick us off right into the predictions. I think the Mavericks will come out in game 2. It'll be a close game. I don't think they're going to just knock Boston in the mouth and just take them out early like Boston did today for Dallas. But especially what you mentioned, Goglin, that right after halftime, Jason Kidd got his team ready. They knew what they had to do. They chipped away. They nickel and dined them and brought it back within single digits. So I think especially after a game, very young team, not much finals experience on that Dallas team outside of Kyrie and J. Kidd. And just calm them down. You'll be fine. They'll be ready for game 2, I think. I think they're going to come back and play so much better. I don't think Kyrie's going to have another game like he did tonight.
Yeah, I don't think you can play it much worse than he did tonight. And something we talked about in the last episode, something that Nick pointed out, I think specifically with Kyrie, but then we all really talked about with their front court was the experience and being on this final stage in Boston. And the first 5 minutes, like I said, the Mavericks, they came out pretty solid. I was like, okay, both teams are hitting their shots. It doesn't look like nerves are really that big of a thing. But then when the Celtics threw that first punch, the Mavericks really did not know how to respond until late in the second quarter going into the third.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 20-19 at one point. Dallas was like leading. It was like really close
and then
up until 20, and then all of a sudden it's like 30-something to 20.
Dallas. I think the first quarter ended at 20-37 or 21.
Correct. Yeah, 37-20.
Yeah,
something like that. So I think just the Cavs or not the Cavs. Sorry, the Celtics are I think a better team all around, but I don't know. This Mavericks team has continued to show why they're, I think, a great team every round. And Miles, you told me this happened every round they've played. They've gotten, or not every round, but almost every round they've played, they've gotten blown out in a game 1.
Yeah.
And they came back and played better in every other game.
Yeah, the first 2 rounds they lost they were down by like 30 to the Clippers in game 1. They had a similar thing happen in OKC in game 1 the next round. They remedied that in the Minnesota series, but that's still like you see that they can get blown out in game 1 and bounce back. Like we've been saying it a lot because there have been a lot of blowouts in these playoffs. Whether you lose by 1 or lose by 60, it's a one loss. A loss is a loss, and they can come back from this. I think we've got to give a lot of credit to the Boston Celtics. I feel like we've been talking about a lot about how the Mavericks they didn't play that well, but the Celtics, Derek White, Al Horford, Drew Holiday, I thought was spectacular in this game.
Drew Holiday, he was one guy that just kept sticking out to me because every single time, like he only had 12 points or something like that, eight boards from a guard, and you were pointing it out, especially when we were watching it. His post game is insane. He was going down there looking like Hakeem with all the crazy footwork, laying up like. He's just so consistent. Like, even if nobody else is getting going, you can rely on him in a bucket. So that is going to be clutch because even though he didn't score the most or didn't have the most impact, his consistency and him just being efficient is going to pay dividends when eventually someone else is going to get cold. JB may get cold. Porzingis came out great, but maybe he'll have another down game. But Drew Holiday, he's going to pick it up where he is. He was fantastic for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that points to something else you were saying, Jackson, how the Celtics are probably the more talented team in here, that they have more players up at top, and that allows some of their guys to have room for error. Like, you can afford to have Tatum only scores 16 on 6 of 16 shooting, not the most efficient game, especially from 2-point range. You can afford for Holiday to only have 12, and you still be fine. The Mavericks cannot afford to have any of their players really have bad games.
No, Mavericks definitely need to play perfect because this Boston team is for real. Like we've talked about it so much over these last couple rounds about how Boston, they've been a little disappointing. They've had the weakest road to the finals. They haven't been healthy either because KP was out ever since in the first round. He never played against the Cavs or the Pacers. It didn't really matter, but those games were still close, even though it was a gentleman's sweep and then a sweep. Like, those were still close games, and we were all worried that Boston was possibly going to play down to the competition. Now, KP inserted back. They came back in their dominant fashion that we saw all regular season, and yeah, huge props to Boston for not, like, letting get socked in the throat. Game 1 on your home turf in a sold-out Boston crowd. Yeah.
Yeah, I was super impressed with how the Celtics came out in this game because you're right. You specifically picked the Mavericks because of maybe the worry that the Celtics were going to play down to their level.
Exactly.
But you could tell immediately when they stepped on the floor and the ball tipped up in the air that the Celtics, it felt like a more high level game, that they had upped their level of play on both ends of the floor. The physicality was something that was huge for the Celtics against the Mavericks, and they didn't allow the Mavericks to get anything easy either. Like, there were not many times where the Mavericks got an easy look. I think every shot that the Mavericks took, the Celtics, all right, we'll live with this. We'll live with this contested mid-range step back shot isolation.
Yeah.
We'll live with corner threes from, Derek Jones and PJ Washington, who had been hitting them. They did not in this game. Derek Jones only with 5 points. Again, the threes didn't go down. And the Celtics, the game was just perfectly played to their level. They got all the threes they wanted. They got to the basket a lot. We got to see a lot of dunks in this game.
Yes.
That monster poster by Jaylen Brown, that was nasty.
But,
in the first 3 rounds, we have seen the Celtics every series, really. They have one game where they, blow out their opponent. It was game 1 between the Heat and the Cavs, game 2 of the Pacers. And then the other game at home, they kind of let their foot off the gas. They lose game 2 in the first 2 rounds. They just luckily get the game 1 win against Indiana, the game that the Pacers should have won.
mm-hmm.
So, absolutely, I'm sure the Celtics should be feeling great about this game, but they should not be content with just one win. They should try to go for both of these wins at home.
They were definitely locked in today, and that's my worry is, are they going to be able to do it consistently? Because we haven't seen that this playoffs, especially. If they can do it, this series could be very well over quickly.
Yeah,
quickly.
I could see it, the Celtics winning. Obviously, I'm not going to just say, I think the Mavericks are going to win for sure. I could still see the Celtics winning, especially because they're so much more talented. And I also, like we said about Kyrie, I don't see Tatum having another bad game. I mean, he hasn't had the best playoffs, but I don't think he's going to have – I think he wants this series more than any other series, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think he knows that he has to step up. Even though he's got the other guys around him stepping up, he knows that if he wants to be considered the number 1 guy on this team next year, because if Jaylen Brown outplays him for another series, I think people are going to say, hey, Tatum's not even the number 1 guy for Boston anymore.
He's higher paid, won Eastern Conference MVP. There's definitely a conversation for that.
Finals MVP if he plays better.
I was going to say, Jaylen Brown's definitely on his way to possibly a Finals MVP because he did have a great game. We talked about Porzingis, and we haven't talked much of Jaylen Brown outside of the poster, but Jaylen Brown was as good as we've seen him. Like, he is just, I don't know what else to say. He's been playing fantastic this whole playoffs.
Yeah, the stat sheet in this one: 22 points, 6 boards, 2 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks, and left 5 points at the line. That was something that was weird. He missed a whole lot of free throws.
There's a lot of
teams.
I was gonna say this was not a good free throw game. There was something wrong with the rims in Boston.
That's what I'm saying. They cheated.
The Mavs go 12 for 19, Celtics 13 for 19. So both teams go around that 65% mark at the foul line.
Did the refs have a quarter? They had to make each team shoot 19 free throws.
They were exactly the same here.
We've had a bunch of games that we've talked about the free throw differential, and that's been a conspiracy between a lot of teams in the previous rounds. Not this time.
All exactly the same here. And really, the difference here, when you look at the number of attempts, is the 3-point attempt. We talk about the Mavericks not really getting up a whole lot of 3-7 for 27. The Celtics go 16 for 42. They throw up 42 threes, which is a lot of threes, especially for the finals. I know that's the modern NBA, but even in the finals, that is a lot of threes, and all of them were hitting. In the first half, we were all like, dude, since when did Sam Hauser become this lockdown defender? He got stops on Luka and Kyrie. He finally made some threes, which is something he is known for doing, but did not do it at all really in the Pacers series. He was brutal from 3-point line. He looked incredible in the first half.
Yeah, they had the one possession early in the game where they got like 6 offensive rebounds just from threes.
Oh my God. Dallas could not get a rebound. I remember that. Oh man.
I wish I had the rebounding numbers in front of me. But yeah, looking ahead here, game 2 is going to be Sunday night, also in Boston. Of course, the Mavericks looking to even it up at 1 apiece. Something to note, stat from the finals, the winner of game 1 goes on to win the series, I believe 70% of the time. So definitely not looking great for the Mavericks after that, the game just in finals history. But that doesn't really matter in situations like this. Every scenario is a bit different here. But looking ahead to game 2, Jackson, what are some adjustments you think that the Mavericks should make going into game 2?
I don't think it's something that they should make. I think it's something they will make, because I think Jason Kidd's gonna kind of be on top of it the next couple of days. I think get your guys in the gym shooting threes, getting comfortable with that again, because I feel like PJ Washington looked off from at least jump shooting perspective. Derek Jones, pretty much everyone that isn't named Luka Doncic, and Jaden Hardy looked okay. He looked confident, and that's what you kind of need from a guy like him. Is just he's kind of like a Cam Thomas who's not as gifted scoring wise, but I think just making sure that your guys come into the next game locked in, ready to hit their shots and ready to kind of deal with this tough Boston team and this tough Boston crowd.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, Jason Kidd, you better be on the rest of that team outside of Luka Doncic. If I'm Jason Kidd, Luka Doncic is in the cooling chamber. He is resting. He is getting healthy, because even though there was a lot of rest, we had a week between games, there was a lot of rest for both teams to get healthy. Luka's been banged up, and even he took he was going in, made a tough layup, hard falling down into the stanchion.
Yeah.
And he getting up, they showed him a close-up of him running, and he's so tense, he's hurting. Yeah. Let him rest, let him try to get healthy, try to just tone down his pain as much as you can. Everybody else on that team better be shooting 100 shots everywhere. You guys need to be on that game, because that's exactly what I think Dallas just needs. They just need everybody else to step up, because Luka had a great game.
I don't know what hotel they're at, but whatever your hotel you're at, get him the best room on the top floor or wherever it is, and say, here, rest. Don't come out of here until the next game.
Yeah, he is off limits to the public and everybody else.
If he's seen outside of the room, he's getting benched. The Mavericks can suffer.
And then bring the rest of them to a high school playground, have them shooting free throws.
Yep, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
I also think Dallas, they need, I think, not just the shooting the ball, they need a lot of work, I think, on the inside. I think the front court, because we were talking how Boston just took it to them today, especially in the front court. That's something they just need to even up. They don't even need to be better than Boston. They just need to make it closer. Because in the backcourt, you got to give it to Kyrie and Luka. So if you can at least even it up in the front court, you're in a good territory. You're in a good space. But right now, they're getting out rebounded. Defensively, they're just taking it in. They were a lot of dunks, we said, just super easy to get to the basket. We talk a lot about Luka's defense, but there's a lot of times when he's hurting, he's just letting people go by him. Yeah. They just need to shore up that interior defense. And even on the offensive end, taking it inside, they got blocked 9 times. They need to hit their shots. They need to do something where they can get the big guys out of that paint. Because once they're out of the paint, then they can hit their layups. We were talking about Jaden Hardy, about him being confident. He was confident, but he missed like 3 or 4 layups taking it inside on those big guys. He wasn't shy about taking it. He just got blocked or missed them. Yeah. And they need those to be down and be knocking them down.
Yeah, and I think the problem with at least Dallas's big men is, at least matching up in this scenario, is you got KP who can stretch the floor. And Al Horford can even stretch the floor a little bit. You have to be worried about him.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Lively or Gafford can kind of keep up with KP on the perimeter. And, like, I don't know what their solution would be. Maybe Derek Jones Jr., maybe just going with a Warriors-type death lineup, but then KP's just going to
He's just shoot over them. That's what we saw a lot. Like, Porzingis did a great job in this game of using his size to just get up quality shots. Like, even with guys right up on him, hand in his face, they were good shots. Just one dribble, turn around, shoot over the guy, and it was money.
There was about 3 to 5 times we saw him get the ball at the top of the key, one dribble to the free throw line, turn around, guys right in his face. He just puts up and puts his elbow up and just over him and right in.
Yeah,
right in.
Just overpowering the defense of the Mavericks. And I think a big part of why the Mavericks weren't able to get a whole lot of shots inside was the defense of Drew Holiday and Derek White in the backcourt, because they did a great job on Luka and Kyrie. I know Luka had, the 30 points was pretty efficient. But again, the 1 assist, Kyrie really struggling. Like, both of these guys can play a whole lot better. And I wouldn't even say that the Luka only having 1 assist was because of guys really missing shots. There weren't many opportunities for guys to get off good shots. When Luka drove, he saw a lane to score, and he made the shot. There weren't really a lot of chances for him to make the extra pass outside.
Goglin mentioned it earlier about how Luka wasn't being as aggressive when he's driving in. He's doing pump fakes. He's getting open. There was one where he did like a turnaround and he was wide open, and then he did a spin to try to take it inside. And I don't remember if he made the layup or he passed. I was going to say he passed it out, because even though he had a wide open shot, he's the only one who's going. He's trying to get his other teammates going. But the defense of Boston, the rotation, they only had like a half a second to shoot. There was no room for any other guys for Luka to pass to, or even for the other guys to get the shots up.
And I'm thinking, like, he's doing all these flashy passes. They're cool, but they're kind of unnecessary in a lot of.
There's a lot of times that's
a lot of different times it's unnecessary. And if it's the regular season, cool, do it. It's the regular season. If it's the first round of the playoffs, do it. But the finals, why are you doing that in the finals?
Can't make mistakes at this level.
Exactly, and it's like, obviously Luka's carrying the whole team, but
especially when your teammates aren't going, you want to make it as easy as possible. You don't want to like just off center. Like, there were times when Kyrie would have been open from 3 and he had to like reach over to get it.
Exactly.
Which just that half a second of reaching and not getting that perfect
throws
pass
off your rhythm.
Throws off the rhythm and gives just another half a step or another step for the defender to get closer to you to contest the shot. Yeah. He just needs to simplify it a little bit.
So I'm thinking what Dallas needs to do is just, I think their starting lineup stay the same. I think give Jaden Hardy more minutes off the bench, and maybe experiment a little more Tim Hardaway. A little bit.
You were dogging on him. You guys were dogging on him so much earlier. I was telling them to put him in the game, and you guys were like, "Oh my god!"
I don't think
Jaden Hardy's so much better.
I don't think you can play both. I think
you can.
Not at the same time.
You have to only play one or the other. You can't play both out there, because the Celtics are just gonna dominate the ISO matchup.
I think there were times when they had Hauser on Luka, and Luka just didn't necessarily look like aggressive, go to work Luka. Yeah. I think Sam Hauser did play great defense, but Luka also looked like he was playing more laxed offense when he had Hauser guarding him. And I think if that's the case next game, and Joe Mazzulla says, Hauser, you're on Luka again, I think Luka needs to just put him to work.
Hauser had him scared ever since he pickpocketed Luka earlier. He pickpocketed Luka, then stopped Kyrie on the next possession. After that, they were scared to try to take Hauser one-on-one.
It was a weird game for Luka, too, because there was also that play where he got stripped in the backcourt, where Jaylen Brown just took the ball.
He tried to do around the back, which he did earlier in the game when they pressurized him, and Jaylen Brown saw it and was like, I'm just going to go to the other side.
Poke, slam dunk at the other end.
Easy like that.
Just great performance by the Boston Celtics. I know the last few finals, it's ended up being tied at 1 after the first 2 games. So, this obviously just one game. With Dallas talking about the starting lineup, I was curious on whether or not they think about moving Derek Jones out for Josh Green. But again, these happen the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, so I don't think you really change anything rotation-wise that much.
Especially because Derek Jones is probably the guy they're going to keep putting on Tatum.
Yeah, that is what they...
Or what they were doing a lot was putting the big on Tatum and then having Derek Jones kind of be the guy with the athleticism who can jump up and contest KP.
Yeah, the Celtics played an interesting defensive. They had interesting defensive matchups as well. To start the game, for a lot of the game, they would have whichever big was in Horford or Porzingis. They would have him guarding Derek Jones, which leaves more athletic guys, Brown and Tatum, to guard isolation players, and then Horford and Porzingis can basically just roam around and then attack the paint as well. So this is a great game 1 for the Celtics. We'll see how the Mavericks can adjust and respond. You guys have any bold predictions for game 2? I know game 1 we all had our own interesting takes.
Yeah.
Was mine the closest? Mine might have been the closest.
Yours was probably the closest.
Although you said Celtics under 100. They got 107.
You were close. Yeah, both of you guys were.
But I also said they'd win the game if they held them under 100.
That's true.
So,
I forget what I said.
But honestly, mine might be the same. I think they can come out in game 2, play better defense, hold the Celtics to what they had them at the start of the game, which was like really poor shooting. And I think they can do that for more of the game instead of kind of having it implode after a little bit. And I think they can hold them under 100 again because they pretty much did that because the garbage time didn't really matter. Like both teams scored a lot in garbage time. So I don't know. I feel like they could do it. I feel like they could hold them to under 100.
I think my bold prediction was actually for game 2 because I thought Boston was going to win game 1. Unless I was just thinking this and
didn't say it.
Yeah, I was just saying I could just be thinking I think a lot of things and just don't say it sometimes, which is shocking. I talk a lot. But I think even though I thought Boston was going to win game 1, my bold prediction is Mavs come out, win game 2. That's not the bold prediction. The bold prediction is Kyrie comes back, has a great game. I think him and Luka both drop 35 plus.
Wow.
And win the game. I think it's going to be a close game because I don't think the rest of the Dallas people, I low-key think Derek Lively might have another really rough game and be taken out of the game. So I think it's going to be a really close game, even though both those guys go off. But I think they pull it out, and I think both those guys just go off.
That is something I wanted to mention. You mentioned Derek Lively. We talked about the foul trouble.
Yeah.
He also, I feel like every time he was switched out guarding Tatum or Brown, they dribbled right around him.
Oh, they got past him
They got past him every single time. And it's pretty odd because he had been doing a pretty decent job in the previous series. But this game, he more than most players, he looked a little bit.
If you're the Boston Celtics, that's what you do. Like how we see the Mavericks offense, they make sure to switch Horford onto Luka. He always takes that step back and just torches them. That's what Boston needs to continue to do. Every time you see Lively in, switch it out, have Tatum or Brown have Lively be guarding you and just school him, force him inside, dribble him off, get past him, and then force the contact because that's what they did tonight. Foul trouble and ineffective.
Yeah, I don't know about your prediction, Joey, just because I don't think Kyrie's gonna have a good game until they go back to Dallas. Because I think he's too in his head when he plays in Boston.
You think so? I feel like he has pretty good games but this is the worst I've seen him play. I mean, he really doesn't have games like this.
This is the finals. This is different. I feel like he's just in his head right now, especially being in Boston. You know, those fans are rowdy towards him.
Yeah, they definitely were in game 1
because he's talked about how the fans get to his head, especially the Boston fans sometimes in the past. So I feel like now it's just...
I wouldn't be shocked by that. Yeah, because this was definitely probably the worst I've seen Kyrie play since like the first half of the season. Because like ever since the second half when Dallas made the trades and have been playing fantastic the rest of the year and into the playoffs, Kyrie's been a huge part of that. You might be right. He might be in his head because I don't know.
But I think even Kyrie didn't have a bad first half of the year. He had an underrated first half of the year.
Yeah.
I think his points were a little dipped, but I think he was facilitating a lot better in the first half of the year as well.
They just can't have that again.
No.
If they stand any chance, they cannot. Kyrie's their most experienced point guard or player in the finals on this team, and they just need him to be Kyrie.
Yeah, I said this before, and I'll say it again. In order for the Mavericks to have a chance, they need their two best players to play at their best.
Yeah.
Or as best as they possibly can. Because I know Kyrie, later half of his career, but
what's your bold prediction?
My bold prediction, I think that Luka is going. I mentioned that Luka step back game-winning 3 at the buzzer. I don't think it's going to be at the buzzer, but he's going to make a step. Okay.
It'll be like that Minnesota one where he hit that step back, but there's only like a second or two left.
Potentially. I think that we are going to see a game-winning 3 by the Mavericks in the final 5 seconds of overtime in game 2. We're going to go overtime in game 2.
Overtime in game 2.
That is my bold prediction. That is my bold prediction. I would love to see that happen because we need more closer games than this one.
I was going to say, more basketball, free basketball, I'm all in.
More basketball, the better. So let us know in the comments what you thought about this game 1, your bold predictions for game 2. A lot of players in their first NBA finals, including Luka and Kristaps Porzingis, who both played very, very well in their finals debut. So that inspired a Run in the Paint top 10 that I created of the top 10 best finals debut performances since 1990. I didn't go all the way. I didn't go all the way back, but these are basically all the other ones in there. I know Adrian Dantley didn't make the list, but
okay,
pretty solid name. So let's start with the top. Yes, here we go. Here's all our lovely
faces.
Yeah, so here we go. Number 10 on the list. We've got Al Horford played in this game. Al Horford from 2022 against the Golden State Warriors in his obviously his first finals at this late stage of his career. Just bombing away from threes. 26 points, 6 threes, and just cooked in the second half of this game. If you guys remember.
Nobody cared about because everyone hates both of these teams.
It definitely was a great performance, and I should be way less shocked that Horford played a great game, even while only playing limited minutes with KP back today. Because in his debut, clearly he went off. He was bound to, even at his old age, get you at least a good couple minutes.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. He scored 8-0 run in this to give the Celtics the lead, and then closing out this big game 1 victory, getting the and 1 inside. Of course, the Celtics would end up losing this series, but great performance from Horford there. Now, number 9, a bit of a forgotten one. We have Pascal Siakam from the 2019 finals, a very efficient game where I believe he only missed 3 shots, and they were all inside against Draymond Green. It seemed like, look at all these takes to the basket. 32 points, 14 for 17 from the field.
That game.
I know.
Wow.
And this was Siakam's breakout season, winning the most improved player. And of course, a huge win for the Raptors on their way to their first ever NBA championship.
Oh, that was a great finals because we got to see the Golden State Warriors dynasty just completely topple.
It's a
Dynasty.
Wait, you say dynasty?
Yeah, we say dynasty.
Oh, I say dynasty.
Look at these finishes he's doing.
He's good.
Even final minute of the game to close it out, missed the first one. Wild left-hand tip goes down.
Duck dynasty?
Yes.
Well, moving on to number 8, Anthony Davis in the bubble, 2020 against the Miami Heat. Not a whole bunch of highlights in here, but just all around solid. 34 points. Even hit a couple of threes.
10 for 10
oh wow, free throw merchant, 10 for 10.
I think this was
Shea
believe
has a unibrow.
Oh my goodness. Anthony Davis, this is really when I think was the best year of his career. So
Yeah.
efficient from all areas of the
Joel
floor.
Davis.
Capped it off with a ring.
Number 7, we've got Chris Paul
Oh, for
from the 2021
The
finals.
point god.
The point god. He was crazy in this game.
He was.
If
the
you
next
guys
year, he
remember.
cut the lead down to 42.
That's right. He was so addicted to the finals that he never ended up coming
Never
back.
got
But
back.
he was incredible, especially in the third quarter of
He had
this game.
32 points in a game.
32, 9 assists, and cooking Brooke Lopez in this game. You look at
Free
this
throw
play.
merchant, 4 for 4.
2 on the shot clock and 1 3.
This is what we would have seen Chris Paul if he would have made it to the finals with New Orleans back in the day.
Shout out clipped.
I wasn't
out
going
to
to talk
Clips.
about the Clippers. I was talking about New Orleans. Yes, I am also watching the clip show that's on what is it, FX or Hulu?
It's
I
on
watch it
something.
on Hulu.
I think it's on Hulu.
I
Yeah.
watch it on Hulu, so
But yeah, man, the Suns were up
That's a foul on Chris Paul.
Look at that foul there. Now, moving on to number 6, we're going to go back in time a little bit. We
All
are
right, what are
going
we
to
doing
go
here?
look at Shaquille O'Neal.
oh my gosh,
From
what against this poverty ass red jersey team was that the Houston Rockets?
Yes, the
Oh, you mean
Houston
the
Rockets.
series?
What?
You mean the series they won?
But
What?
this was a crazy game from Shaq here.
Oh, dude.
1 assist shy of a triple-double in this game. You look at this over Hakeem. Hakeem had a great game, too. He
Tugged
played,
his shirt.
played some
Foul.
decent defense as well.
That's what we call sunning somebody.
Yeah, look at this.
He sees Hakeem in there, barbecue chicken.
Don't matter. They won the series.
26-16, 9 assists, 3 blocks. Made some nice passes as well. This was a fun era of Shaq when he was with the Orlando Magic. But this was an insane game as well. Well, look at this block here,
Yeah.
Lucky.
which leads to the transition play by Nick Anderson. This was the Nick
Hey.
Anderson game where
Yes,
he missed
it
all the
was.
free throws. 8 seconds to go in overtime. Dennis Scott hits a 3 to tie the
3D.
game. And then at the other end, Clyde Drexler to the basket, misses the layup, but Hakeem
Where
Olajuwon
was
with
Shaq
the
to box him
tip-in
out? Where
to
was
win
he?
Wow.
the
Nowhere to be
game.
found.
even though he lost the series. Number 5, we've got Tim Duncan from
Mike Dunleavy.
1999.
The big fundamental, probably one of my top 3 favorite players of all time. I love
Who are
Tim
the other
Duncan.
two? Dwight Howard?
Oscar Robinson and Dwight Howard. Yeah,
Oscar
Wow.
Robertson?
I love Oscar Robinson.
When did
Or
you
Robertson.
watch Oscar Robertson play?
I never watched him, but he's the big O. He averaged a triple-double in the season before Russell Westbrook stat padded his way to do
Yeah.
that.
This is sophomore Tim Duncan as well. Just a second year in the league. Ended up winning Finals MVP,
Yeah, well, Magic did it his first year.
defeating the New York Knicks and hitting a bunch of jump shots as
Oh,
well.
wow. He's cooking who?
Cooking the 8th seeded New York
Oh,
Knicks.
Jalen
the
Brunson
New
would've
York
blocked him.
Knicks. Oh, no surprise there. They don't win in the
I have never
finals.
been a Knicks fan before this year because I like
They-
Jalen Brunson.
They
Oh
don't
my-
win the finals. Come on.
Timmy D, first of many championships for the greatest power forward to ever
Greatest
play.
power forward of all time.
Number 4, we've got Kevin Durant back
Yes.
in the Thunder days, 2012.
He's a sissy.
Came out in his first final, scored the first 8 points for Oklahoma City, and was making all sorts of shots. Of course, jump shots. Are going to see a couple dunks, takes to the basket
How
later,
many
some
people actually
plays.
won their series?
Well, Durant won this game. Of course,
Pascal won the series.
Pascal won the series. Tim Duncan won the series.
don't worry. These guys coming up definitely won their series.
Like
but
Magic Johnson. Oh, no, that
but
was before.
man, Kevin Durant, man, I wish he stayed in OKC because
I wish he wasn't a sissy.
well,
We know.
those things kind of go hand in hand.
This
We're being
was
honest.
This was one of the most hyped finals. Yeah, how old were you guys when this in
I was like
2012?
7.
Yeah, 7, 8 years
Yeah,
old.
no,
Oh my
this
gosh, I was 7. Wait.
man, I was in high school at this time. This was one of the most hyped finals ever because KD was at the prime, just getting to the peak, and LeBron, the super team, looking for the ring. It was fantastic.
It was. Now, number 3, let's go to Michael Jordan's first game in the
Overrated.
finals
Oh,
in
Overrated.
1991.
Overrated.
Overrated, dude. Look
Listen,
at
man.
these.
Listen, man. Jordan's great, but he's not even number 1 all time.
That's if he's number 2, that's fine. I mean, this game very efficient. He was
Give me Jaden McDaniels.
he was Jaden McDaniels over Michael Jordan. Elegant highlights from MJ.
How many times did Michael Jordan stop Kevin Durant in the playoffs?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I can't. No, Michael Jordan's the GOAT. I'm sorry for he is. Well, it's up for
Whoa.
debate. It's up for
It is up
debate.
for
That's
debate,
fine.
But
But
in
He's
the
the goat
end,
at gambling and drinking.
Perkins makes a three with 14 seconds to go. This is game 1, 1991. Jordan for the lead.
Bro has no
misses the
bag.
shots.
He has no bag.
So that's the only mark
LeBron
on
would
that
never.
game.
LeBron
That's
would
why
never.
he's not super high on the list. Number 2, we go back to just last season with
Jamal.
Nikola Jokic
Oh my gosh!
with a triple-double in his finals debut. I feel like this is the pretty low-key finals performance.
Wait, so who's gonna be one? Joel Embiid? Oh wait.
Why would you mention Joel Embiid?
Because he has to dog on him at least once.
He
an
has
episode.
to, but 27, 10, and
Oh my
14,
God.
doing
Free
it
throw
all.
merchant.
He
What are we
shot 12
talking
free
about?
throws. He shot 12 field goals and 12 free
Shea
throws.
shoots over his head now,
That's
I
what-
guess.
That's what he does.
Hey, no, but still, like, I know this is one of the low key ones, but getting a triple double in your first finals game is impressive. Even if it was with 10 out of 12 free throws.
Well, hey, if you score a lot of points, it's usually because you get a lot of free throws as well. Those
True.
things kind of go hand in hand. You like that Michael Porter Jr. assist right there?
Hey, shout
love
out
to
Michael
see it.
Porter Jr. Having a
John
career
Cena versus The Rock. That's once in a lifetime.
Dude, Michael Porter Jr. career high in assists this year with 1.5 assists per game this season. Shout out Michael Porter
Oh,
Jr.
Give me the keys to the city.
Oh, well, Jokic coming in at number 2. And then number 1 is, of course, the only thing it could be, Allen
Allen,
Iverson
There's no other.
in 2001, scoring 48 points. Look at this move. Loses Kobe on the jab step.
48.
Kobe who?
Brian, say stop it. That's disrespectful.
Look at
He
this.
just
had
cooked him. What are you talking
cooks
about?
Kobe
He just
on
did a
the-
jab
on the-
step and
Yeah,
Kobe
well,
almost fell.
on the jab step. Look at that. 48 points on
Oh my
41
gosh.
shots.
We can't call him a free throw merchant. He only shot 9 free throws and
Four-
still had 48 points.
On 41 shots.
Hey, 18 for 41 is pretty efficient.
That's not bad.
honestly. But look at this, shaking Kobe again, going to the baseline. This was the only
Lucky.
loss for the Lakers in this playoff run. They went 15-1 at the time when the first round was a best of 5. And Allen Iverson carrying this team to one victory to the finals. This was his MVP season. And you see here in overtime, down by 1, hits the three-pointer to give the
Luka
Sixers
missed
the
that.
lead. And then, of course, the iconic play.
Here it is.
The ISO against Tyronn Lue with under a minute to go to seal the deal, the step back and the step over.
Boom.
And those are the top 10 greatest finals debut performances since 1990. We could say NBA history because there really weren't a lot better before that.
Magic Johnson.
AI is first. That game is number one
yeah.
no matter what.
Not in game ones, it was not Magic's. I don't remember.
Magic had a
seeing that
triple
one.
double.
It wasn't as great as Al
And
Horford.
he was a rookie.
It wasn't as great as Al Horford, I'll tell you that.
No,
No, it's definitely up for debate. There were a couple of snubs. If Jackson's boy Kenny the Jet Smith hit 7 threes in his first game. In that same game we showed you with Shaq going crazy. But
hey, leave us comments in the comment section about who you think we should have put in the top 10, like a Magic Johnson or a Kenny the Jet Smith.
yeah,
Luka.
Or
poor Luka.
hey, Luka, he had a great first game.
And Porzingis
Yes.
was sensational as well.
I don't think they cracked that top 10 though.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, Porzingis with the context
KP
of it all,
maybe.
he might,
KP
because that was
maybe.
incredible.
KP after a month off coming back. Ooh.
In only 20 minutes?
That was something
that's
else.
not bad.
But now let's get to some quick news stories coming out the last couple of days. Of course, the coaching news. We've talked about the Cavs a lot with the coaching candidates. But now let's talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. Haven't talked about them a whole lot with this coaching search.
Thank God.
Well, yes. I
hate talking about
everyone
the
talks
Lakers.
about the Lakers,
God.
but this
Go
is
Lakers.
it is a very interesting situation here. You know, it comes out about 2 to 3 days ago from Shams that JJ Redick is the front runner to be their next head coach. Then early this morning, we get a Woj bomb saying that their front runner candidate is actually UConn head coach Dan Hurley, and they are preparing a massive long-term offer for Hurley to come to the NBA, leave UConn, and coach the Lakers. And he's been apparently their number one candidate this entire time. Jackson, we'll start with you. What do you think about both of these guys, JJ Redick and Dan Hurley, in this position for the Lakers?
Well, I want JJ to stick to podcasting, so
True.
I can agree with that.
I
I
think it's
agree.
fine with. I like that, but I think Dan Hurley. I mean, if he wants to go to the NBA, go to the NBA. Coach the Lakers. I think he'd be perfect for them. Miles, you mentioned to me earlier, like with LeBron, he said he wanted someone that could he wanted them to not make the decision based off of him, but make it based off their future. And I think as someone who's he's worked on developing NBA players since he's got to UConn. I mean, just thinking of some people in this year's class: Donovan Clingan, Stephon Castle. You have Jordan Hawkins last year, all primed to be decent to good NBA players. So I think he could help the Lakers a lot, especially Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and then kind of build around AD, who I think is a number one. And then run it with LeBron one more year, because it's looking like LeBron's probably going to come back to the Lakers.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Especially because they're probably going to draft Bronny with their new 19th pick or whatever pick they have.
Yeah.
So I think Hurley would be a great choice if he wants to go to the NBA, if he doesn't want to keep his college dynasty that he has going, because it's going to remain a dynasty as long as he's there. I think he's kind of looking like a Coach K type of guy who could win a lot of championships and stuff.
Well, he did learn under Coach K.
Exactly.
And he did play under him and won with him. But I 100% agree. JJ, I think, can be a good head coach. I think it's just a popular one because his podcast is popular. He's a great NBA analyst. He's going all over the media circuit. And LA is LA. They want to be in the news. They want to be the flashy, here, we got JJ Redick from a podcast that he does with LeBron. And now he's going to be coaching LeBron. That's what everybody wants. That's what the media's been putting out. Dan Hurley is a great coach. You're right talking about, I don't know if he would leave that dynasty in UConn. He already was talking about earlier, like a couple weeks ago or something, he wants to go for back-to-back championships with UConn, but
like Kyrie telling everyone he's going to stay.
But we also know that he, wants eventually to go to the NBA someday, and
eventually, but win like 10 college rings first. Get your gold somewhere else.
Right.
This is a good situation for him, though. You can come in, learn from great players like Anthony Davis, LeBron, and whatever veterans you get. Try to win a championship, or at least try to compete, learn how to win, and then teach that to the young guys while also helping your young guys and whoever you draft for the future to transition from college to the NBA. Because like you said, he's a winner. He's got those guys in UConn that are going to be top, and they're top NBA prospects now. He can develop people. This would be a great situation for him. I'm just a huge fan of college basketball with all the NIL stuff and everyone transferring. I want people to stay where they're at and just win where they're at. So him staying there, because as soon as he leaves, UConn, doesn't matter what kind of prestige coach they bring in, half that team is going to try to transfer somewhere else.
It's like Alabama in football. I mean, a lot of it, they lost a bunch of really good players because Nick Saban retired this year.
Kentucky, same thing. Calipari just went from Kentucky. He's signing he's with Arkansas. 3 of his recruits were going to Kentucky, all switched to Arkansas now.
Coach K, when he retired, I mean.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. It just stinks that way. So selfishly, I want him to stay in college.
Yeah.
But for Dan Hurley, if he does decide to go to the NBA with the Lakers, it's not a bad deal.
Yeah, but
it's
honestly,
a good situation.
Thinking about this also, it is LA media, and I don't think they're going to be championship team right off the bat. And I don't know how long LA fans and LA media are going to want him around. So if he gets fired,
they're definitely not known for their patience.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So he could get fired or something, and then I think he'd be right back into that UConn system or whatever college team he wants.
I just don't want it like that, because if the Lakers want to get out of their situation now,
they need
bring
to
it open. Coach. They need to develop this, start from scratch, bring it up,
and I think Hurley
would be perfect. But I agree with you. If the Lakers fans don't want to go through a rebuild or at least a retooling, because if you keep Anthony Davis, you just have to retool. They better have patience, because Hurley's a good coach.
Yeah, and I think that Laker fans have gotten a little bit smarter. They should be smart enough at this point to know.
Should be.
They should know enough that this current iteration of the team, especially in that loaded of a Western Conference, it's not going to win you a championship, and you're probably not going to win another championship in this LeBron era. Unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen.
I think they can win another one with AD though.
Yeah, I mean, yes, years
That's
down the
possibility.
line, definitely possible. Of course, if this does become official, we'll talk more about this later. I think that one thing that's always interesting with college coaches coming into the NBA is how they can adjust, because, you know, it becomes a partnership now with the front office. Like, you know, in college right now, Dan Hurley is the owner, the GM, and the coach all at once. And now you have to work out a partnership with a bunch of different people. And I think that Rob Pelinka and, you know, Jeannie Buss for the Lakers, they do a decent job with creating that sort of partnership. But, you know, it is definitely an adjustment going from coaching to the NBA. We haven't seen a whole lot of college coaches come to the NBA and be very successful. Just a recent example. John Beilein.
I knew you were going to mention it. Please.
Well, exactly. We know where that came from.
John Beilein.
Billy Donovan has been a coach for a while, but
he was one that came from Florida. That was a great coach for Florida. Came to the NBA. He did have some struggles, but he's been a solid coach.
I'm thinking though, also with JJ Redick, I can only really think of like one former NBA player that's like a crazy, like a known, long time, tenured NBA player.
What, Steve Kerr?
Like, well, sure, but like I said, you didn't let me finish. I was gonna say I can think of two, him and Jason Kidd. Are they I can think of?
Who's the Suns head coach or not?
Monty Williams?
Or not? That's not.
No, that's Detroit. Who is the Pelicans?
Willie Green.
Willie Green was a former NBA player, role player for like 10 years.
There are a lot of success. There are a lot of decent players.
Because I mean, he has a talented roster too, and they haven't really done much. I mean, granted, they have the human buffet over there. So it's hard to move anywhere.
Getting a coach with no experience, well, that's the thing. Besides of a player, because Steve Kerr's had front office experience before. Willie Green assistant coach experience, but like even with Steve Kerr and JJ Redick, no coaching experience whatsoever before going in. And Steve Kerr obviously was great. You can say that he had great players around him, and people try to say that he's not that great of a coach because of the great players he had. He elevated that team to become what they were those first 2 years.
They had no. Whoever makes that excuse for Steve Kerr, I want you to stop it. We're Cavs fans. We don't like Golden State. We especially don't like Steve Kerr because he coached Golden State to beat us all the time.
Former Cleveland Cavaliers.
Former Cleveland Cavaliers. I like Steve Kerr, but we don't like him because he beat us so many times as a coach.
He named his son Nick. I think that's pretty funny.
That is kind of funny.
It's hilarious.
However, Mark Jackson basically had that same team, and they didn't make it out of the second round.
He definitely elevated that team.
I can think of more former NBA players that are bad coaches than good coaches.
Absolutely.
Larry Bird, even like Larry Bird wasn't that good of a coach. He coached the Pacers.
Like
Chauncey Billups, Steve Nash. I mean,
it's hard to think of really good ones like Steve Kerr, Jason Kidd this year, but even like before, people weren't really fans of Jason Kidd.
Brooklyn Nets. Hey, run into me real quick.
That was incredible. Dude, that's still one of my favorite moments ever. But like even like Kevin McHale was pretty decent when he was in Houston. With those early James Harden teams.
Mark Jackson, like I just mentioned, but like he didn't succeed like Steve Kerr until. I don't know, man.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who the Lakers end up hiring for their job. It looks like Dan Hurley is the front runner, but it really is going to be up to whether he wants to go to the NBA or not. It sounds like it'll be up to him.
It's 100% up to Dan.
And I think he's going to take it.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
especially because he's losing a lot of his core players for UConn this year.
Well, he always builds it back up. You're a two-time champion. You're going to get the best recruits.
Yeah.
You're UConn, for Christ's sakes.
Duke's got the number one recruit this year.
Oh, Cooper Flag.
And then Ace Bailey's going to Rutgers.
Yeah.
But I think regardless of what he decides to do, that he'll be a winner, whatever he decides to do. And the Lakers, they won't have a bad backup plan with JJ Redick. I mean, the thing with JJ Redick, which obviously I want to preface this before I say this, I think JJ is one of the best analysts out there. I love his podcast. 100%. He's fantastic. But he on the Mind the Game podcast that he does with LeBron James, they, talk about a lot of the plays. They kind of define them out a little bit. Every coach in the NBA, every staff already knows all that stuff. So how different is his style going to be from others? Like, that's really the only thing.
He's going to say Chuck threes with a team that can't shoot threes.
Chuck. But
Dan Hurley's got to work with Spencer Dinwiddie this offseason.
Oh, my goodness
Dan
gracious.
Hurley's going to – because Dan Hurley's going to tear him apart mentally if he plays bad. Because we saw in, like, their Final Four – or their like round of 64 game. They were up 30 at halftime. He's like, we gotta play better.
Oh, dude, Dan Hurley is ruthless. Dan Hurley was ruthless as a player.
I'm like, you guys missed like 10 total shots. You guys have forced 20 turnovers, and you're not happy about it?
When we talked about Boston earlier, we were talking about how they had a great game. Don't let off the gas pedal. You don't have to worry about that with Dan Hurley. Gas pedal is always all the way down.
Hurley's gonna hire Randy Orton and Undertaker to RKO and he's gonna driver them if they don't play well.
Oh my goodness. Well, we talked a little bit about the Warriors earlier. They're, Draymond Green, current Warrior, he was in the headlines. He's been in the headlines a lot with the media recently.
Always is.
But this time it's going back at Rasheed Wallace, who made a comment saying that his 2004 Detroit Pistons would beat the 2007 Kevin Durant Golden State Warriors that went 16-1. Draymond Green goes back saying that the Warriors would sweep the Pistons. What do you guys think about this?
I do think the Warriors beat them, but it's not a sweep.
Not a
sweep. Draymond, get out of here.
You're winning. No, I'm not going to argue that because no one that Piston team was great, but like no one even expected them to beat.
But also Ben Wallace might disintegrate Steph Curry.
Oh yeah. I hate to say it, but like Draymond is as a bully, and like we talk about how he just got his
bullies.
He's going against he's got his anger issues and stuff. He hasn't seen anything until he saw the Wallace guys. He saw nothing.
The Wallace bros are like, nah.
The Wallace bros.
Draymond's gonna go in for a layup. He's gonna get clothesline.
Oh,
he's gonna get punched in the mouth. He's gonna start crying like a little baby.
Yeah. That's something we got to run in 2K. We got to bring those historic teams.
I'm sure that's the thing people are already doing. I know.
And Steph are so broken in 2K, and Ben Wallace sucks in 2K.
Well, so I know Richard Jefferson, a player who played against both of those teams in the playoffs. He might have the best take on this.
He would, yeah.
And he said that he would take the Warriors in a gentleman's sweep in 5 games.
Oh.
That's kind of where I lean with it a little bit because I know, defensively, the Pistons are, obviously incredible.
Insane.
But who's going to score?
Still, the Warriors, I mean, come on. Like, even great, I'll take great offense over great defense.
Dude, but when all the Warriors players are unconscious, how are they going to score?
Yeah. I would probably still take the Warriors maybe in 5 or 6.
Zaza is a bully versus
Zaza against Ben Wallace. That'd be the matchup of the series.
Ben Wallace might tear his face off.
Yeah, you know who they're going to send in when Zaza comes in? They're going to send in Darko Milicic.
Darko, dude.
The second best pick in that 2003 draft.
Old Chris Webber. Send an old Chris Webber at the end of his career.
All right, let's move on.
Final bit of news story. We finally got some good jerseys.
Oh, my.
Look at these beauties of the Utah Jazz.
We're not going to see them for 7 more millennials.
Yeah, dude, I don't know. These won't be in place until the 2025-2026 season.
Oh, not even this season?
So it's not even next season, but
the Jazz did something good, and they're making us wait.
These jerseys are obviously, in my opinion, these are incredible. These might be my favorites in the league.
These are probably the best. My friend sent me this the picture of this. Shout out Trey and
Trey.
Yeah, shout out Trey. He stinks.
What I'm seeing here,
talking about 2K, man stinks at 2K.
The left and
these jerseys are so clean.
Purple ones that Markkanen and Kessler and are kind of very similar. I know the ones on the right were their city jerseys from this past year, but they got the black lettering, the swoops of the mountain, like it almost looks like the northern lights on the shores.
I think Walker Kessler needs to start eating some food. He looks skinny though.
Those jerseys are 100% probably my favorites,
especially considering those garbage highlighter yellow jerseys they wore for the past year.
That's my favorite jersey of all time. What are you talking about?
God,
that's probably the reason. Well, unless they can't get enough jerseys made in time for the season for branding or whatever.
Yeah,
but I mean, these yellow highlighter jerseys, they've got to give him 3 years to wear. You can't only wear them for 2.
I'm excited.
You didn't even need them for 1. I'm sorry. you should have stopped it after 1.
What's the problem
Didn't
with
even
them?
need it
I
for
don't
1
see a
game.
problem. They look fine.
Okay. Do you want me to get you one?
Okay.
Sure. If you get me a jersey, I would accept it, no matter what jersey it is.
Oh my god.
Even if it was that horrid brown Dallas.
That's what I was
Mavericks
thinking.
jersey.
Sure.
That's probably the worst.
Poop-colored jerseys.
That's probably the worst jersey
If
of
you
all
want it, I
time.
would wear it. I would wear it.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, in the next episode, we will be back to recap game 2 of the 2024 NBA Finals. Hopefully get a much closer game than we did tonight. Hopefully some more news stories about this stuff because it's always fun to get extra things to talk about.
100%. Yeah, I know we even though this is kind of on a normal schedule, we always record Monday, Thursday nights and upload it on Tuesday, Friday. For the finals, it's going to be a different schedule. We're not going to be doing the normal Monday, Thursday schedule.
We're going after every game.
Just after every finals game. And
Right
then,
after, so we can be exhausted.
yes, it is
sleeping.
currently like
It's
quarter to 1
Quarter to
a.m.
1 in the morning on Friday
Sleep
morning.
It's
Yes.
not important, I guess.
No, it is not.
Hey, we got work to do. My parents always told me, you stop sleeping in, you're sleeping in through the day. I do my work at night.
Nighttime, baby. Let's
That's
go.
always what I say. You guys got anything else before we get out of here?
Ridiculous.
Huge shout out to Chase Budinger, Rockets
Yes, gotta
legend.
mention.
Chase Budinger is making the Olympics, and if you don't know who that is, I think he was in a dunk contest one year.
Yep.
I believe
But
so. Yeah.
he's not
Rockets,
making it
Timberwolves,
for
Pacers.
a basketball. He is on a 3-versus-3 Olympic volleyball team that has
Beach
qualified
volleyball.
for Paris in 2020, the summer in 2024.
Beach volleyball.
Beach
dude.
volleyball, Chase Budinger. He looks like a beach volleyball.
He
picture.
does. He really does. It really is incredible. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA Finals content. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next one.
Peace.